As we know, the world has changed so much in the past 2 years, from health safety to working culture, from meeting your friends in person to the virtual world. Most of these things have evolved, and with this evolution, we need to adapt our new skills to keep up with the pace of life. But how do we do that? With multiple things on our platter to learn, what skills do we start with? So we are here today to listen to Mr. Sudhir Aggarwal from Deloitte sharing his views on the top IT skills that are required in the post-pandemic world. Mr. Sudhir Aggarwal has 35 plus years of experience in IT industry and has worked on strategic initiative and projects with government and education ecosystem. He has worked with some esteemed organizations like Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, HCL, and many more. He has been named as the IT industry leader in 2010 by eGovernance. He has been also named as Rishi, Guru, and Maharishi by Rethink India in 2021. He has been associated with many colleges and institutions like Amity Online, then Geetanjali Institute of Technical Studies, and many more. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sudhir Aggarwal for today's session. Welcome, sir, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Pratibha. It is my pleasure that I'm getting this opportunity. So thank you very much, and I'm excited.
So please take the session ahead. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pratibha. So I will start the session now. Good morning, everyone who are attending this session, and also my best wishes to all those who may be watching this afterward. So, as it is mentioned that this COVID has caused a lot of disruption. So even during the session, if you come across some background noises, now this is a part of the new norm, new world. So we should learn to acknowledge that. Now, what I've done to put my thoughts together, I'm using few slides. So I will share those slides and we'll try to build the session around that. So today we are talking of post-pandemic world, and as I've been advised that I should focus on top 5 skills. So if you really look at this pandemic, it has taken the world by surprise. In the sense like, there were some notions happening, there were some noises happening that, it is coming. But by the time March came last 2020, it came in full swing. And we experienced something like, lockdowns, and we experienced mask and, so many things. And it won't be wrong to say that it is something like an undeclared war that we, have gone through marathon, and now we are still, I think there are finer elements of it which we are going through. So it has really created a massive disruption in the life of human mankind. And if you look at, this pandemic has caused a new kind of disability. We have always heard about physical disabilities and those disabilities. But if you really look at it, pandemic, it has caused a very new type of disability, that when everything was fine, everything was functioning, except that people were not able to move. And, this is a new kind of disability. And if you really look into it, as the human being, we are expected to respond, behave, interact, engage. It has caused a massive disruption and caused a new kind of engagement level, which is flooded, or which is, you can say, what is it, tapered by another kind of disability. Another finer point, if you look at of this pandemic, what pandemic has caused in 2 years, not too sure. If we could have done all this, achieved all this, or seen all this even next 20 years. So, what we were contemplating as our roadmap led or the evolutionary, this has happened in a revolutionary manner, in a disruptive manner in 2 years, when the whole world was, it was blocked behind the walls under the lock and key. And while the same platforms are available, they were adopted by the academia, they were adopted by the professional world, they were and when we used to insist on in-person meeting, we started doing the digital meetings. We used to insist so much travel, we used to see so much travel, and all of a sudden we started working without travel. Not only the people who wanted to seek the meeting or take the meeting, even the people who used to offer the meeting, give the meeting, even they started asking for digital meetings. And my friends, if you really see what this pandemic has caused in terms of impact, possibly it is worse than Third World War. क्योंकि वर्ल्ड वॉर में क्या होता है, like right now we are seeing element of it in Ukraine and Russia, where there is a physical damages, there's a life damages, but the physical damage proportion is much higher than the life damages. Infrastructure damage is much higher in a true world war or a physical war. But if you really see the pandemic, it has actually caused a very different type of war on the human being, where people died for different reasons, and without even somebody physically hitting, but even through sensing with each other, touching with each other, and all that. So this has caused much more than any Third World War what could have happened. And if you really see the summary of it, what has evolved out of it, is a digital way. So digital way which has emerged, and as I said, the acceptance of digital way, we can see in these around 2.5 years now, or 2 years, which is much more than what we might have seen over 20 years. And the biggest impact we have seen is work from home. Is a new concept. It used to be as an exception when we used to say work from home, but now it has become a new norm. Digital meeting is a new norm. So this is a little context setting before we get into the top skills which have, which are required after the pandemic or there's such a disaster. And if you really see today, digital, while it was happening all over, the earlier digital adoption we saw when we had demonetization, when even the sabjiwala, the panwala, and the hawkers, small-time hawkers, they started accepting Paytm or equivalent currency, the methods. But this time we have said, now we are seeing digital is into everything, whatever we do, whether personal, social, professional. So digital is the way, and digital is everything. If you really see pandemic effect, I will try to put them under three broad categories. One is the evolution of the digital world post-pandemic, which we just briefly spoke, and we'll be talking more in length as we go forward. Second is the emerging technologies which were there, which was emerging, but I think the kind of peak it has seen, the kind of adoption it has seen during pandemic, it has really given the boost to the emerging technologies, and we will talk about these technologies more in length. And the third one is soft skills. Now, why soft skill is so important? Because when one is that soft skills are required when you are meeting in person, but the soft skills are very different I'm saying the soft skills are very different when we are in a virtual world and in a digital world. So we will briefly touch upon this. And friends, if you lately see lots of institutions, including जो हमारी नई एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आई है, इवन न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी के under, and otherwise, the focus on soft skill is more and more growing, because traditionally we have been taught only hard skills, and uh, while soft skill was a focus, but during pandemic, I think it has become a bigger focus. And just to share with you that in 2020, I even personally achieved a copyright on soft skill leads to wisdom, because to me, when we do the education, we get a degree, we get certificate. When we do the job, we get we get paid, and we get incentives, commission, reward. And when we focus on soft skills, it leads to the wisdom, it leads to a personality development. So this is a little context setting before we go ahead. At this stage, if anybody has a specific question, because this is what we'll be covering, if anybody has a different expectation from this session and want to bring your intervention or your point of view, please feel free. Pratibha, what maybe I'll give a 15 to 30 seconds pause to see if anybody has any kind of intervention or any kind of specific question or any specific expectation from this session other than this or within this.
Sure, sir. I request the participants, if you have any questions, please ask.
And if we are good to go, Pratibha, then we will
So I think
continue.
we should move it ahead then.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, here, if you see, there is a red color I'm showing on the slide, because what has happened that during pandemic, a lot of digital evolution has happened, and mostly to me, this has, because these technologies, these tools were there, I think we could survive through the pandemic period. And I'll give you one or two examples without any reflection on those names. But we should view them as a fix, not the solution. If you see, like today, before pandemic, there were so many platforms, digital platforms. Even right now, we are using a digital platform. Maybe around half a dozen, one dozen digital platforms are available. But traditionally, these platforms were and are available for business collaboration or some kind of specific purposes like delivering such sessions and all that. But if we are saying, okay, no, we want to use these platforms for education, then I think we need to have a very careful assessment and very careful view of that. That are these the platform which can be used for education? Because education has very different requirement than one to many sessions like this, or even collaboration in a professional world, or even when we set up the team rooms and all that. So those are traditional features. But let us understand, when we want to use this platform for our workplace, for our especially education, we need to, I think we should not be happy and satisfied with that whatever has come our way, we should pursue that. No, to me, this was a fix. Because of these technologies were available, I think we could continue business as usual or a little bit with the whatever the dent, but we should not accept these as a solutions. To me, we need to carefully look at it. Okay, what are the requirements of specific sector, whether it is primary education, secondary education, toddler education, or even higher education, whatever is the education. I think we need to see and we need to analyze and understand that what are those specific requirements of each of these world. I'm just trying to focus only on education. And friends, you will find the needs of vocational studies will be very, very different than the what you will need for maybe higher education, what you will need for maybe secondary education. And toddlers, if you really want to use digital technologies for toddlers, it will be very, very different than any other education stream. So the point I'm trying to make here, friends, that whatever has come our way, we should celebrate that because these technologies were there, we could continue. But very clearly, we should not accept them as the solution. We should not accept that we got the answer. We should go back to the drawing board and see that what does each of these sections of education. As I said, I'm just talking of education, the professional world, social world, I'm not even talking of. That what are so specific which we require for uh, toddler through vocational studies, and where also, because it is so coincidence that the new education policy came around the same time. So we should also see that where and how this can be used, these digital technologies can be used in a uh, disruptive manner in evolution of the new education policy, because new education policy offers lots of new things. The onus is on the ecosystem that we evolve it appropriately. We let it evolve towards the next generation education system. So it's important that whatever we have achieved, whatever we have got, we should continue to use this, but we should not stay contented with this. We should not continue, agree to continue to with these tool sets. We need to go back to the drawing board to see what are our requirements. Friends, as I said, the soft skill to me is very, very important. Traditionally, we may like it or not, we have been only focused and taught on all the hard skills, and when it comes to soft skills, so hard skills are, typically what you learn about biology, about chemistry, about maths, about physics, history, all these subjects, whatever you do, learning about those skills, they are called hard skills. Now, the soft skills, traditionally, if you see my friends from the childhood, most often you will realize that a lot of time we have been told by our peers, by our seniors, by our elders, don't do this, do it like this, don't do this, do it like this. You should not do this, you should do this. So basically, what we have been mostly given a negative connotation uh, when we are expecting, setting the expectation from people on what should they do, what it should not they do. Now, if you see uh, in the digital world, post pandemic, now there are new protocols and new behaviors which have evolved. And one of those I will say, video. Now, today I see most time we see 70 to 80% people, they keep the video off under one or the other situation. Somebody says my bandwidth is not right. Somebody says my background is not right now. For whatever the reason, for more than one reason, multiple reason, people keep video off. Now, to me, keeping video on throughout, unless it's an extreme situation, is a soft skill, because anyway we are losing on human touch. Now, even when we have video on, and we are doing, let's say we have 10, 20, 30 people sitting, or 100 people sitting in a session, anyway it is difficult to keep eye contact, or keep personal touch. But by keeping video off, it also causes, maybe it communicates some message, and it also causes possibly the pressure on the speaker to speak to the, as if you're talking to the wall, you're talking to empty screens. So I just took one example, that there are new protocols, there are new behaviors which are coming. Second, that when we are saying in a digital world, let's say I will just restrict this to digital platform communications. Even when we have to speak, there are protocols available in this tool that you can raise your hand, you can put your chat, you can put your question in the chat or whatever. There are multiple protocols which are available. So it's important to learn these and use them appropriately, so that meaningfully we can participate in discussions. So a lot of time it has happened, I will share with you, that when somebody is speaking, I raise my hand. digitally. So sometimes people stop. Now, when you raise your finger, it doesn't mean you raise your hand. It doesn't mean that you are wanting to interrupt now. Basically, we are saying okay, after you, or if there are only two people, ahead of me, then my number is three. So basically, there is a moderator. Like right now, Pratibha is kind enough. She has agreed to do that for us. So she does that. The moderator does that coordination, so that everything is done in sequence without creating a mess and without people losing an opportunity. So my friend, whether it is mask, whether it is digital platforms, whether it is modern days handshake, so whatever it is, but I'm saying okay, there are new protocols, new behaviors, and Pratibha, I think soft skill is a separate session that we can talk for hours together. And my limited point to the friends is that soft skill can't be taught. Soft skill is all about I, me, and myself. We can speak, we can engage, we can converse, but beyond that, how much do I want to adapt and follow? It is purely depends upon me, because most time we find all the wrong things with other people, but we find very little to do with ourselves, because we do not engage with ourselves, we do not communicate with ourselves. So it's important that we, as a part of soft skills, more so in today's world, when the new protocols are emerging, new behaviors are expected, then there, we focus on ourselves, that how do we keep cope up and keep the pace with the changing world. So to me, soft skill leads to wisdom is very, very critical, in our modern days lifestyle more so. And as we were just talking, virtual world is very, very different. In physical world, we were able to, see each other's body language. We were able to see the face impressions, expressions. But in digital world, even with camera on, possibly it's not because the number of audience may be too many. Sometimes when the people are speaking, the configuration is not done in such a manner where the person comes on the screen who's speaking. So, it throws a very different environment, and we have to keep it with that. And as I said, impersonal. Despite video on, despite whatever the technologies we are using, it continues to be more impersonal than personal. And this particular point, because it also comes from my soft skills area, so I'll share with you that handshake, eye contact, face impression, this is something what communicates by one person to the other person, that how much business do I mean with you, through my handshake, through my eye contact. Now those are no more valid. So we need to evolve new protocols, we need to evolve new way of engagement, so that if you have to communicate a comfort level, or a commitment level, how do we do that? So they all will evolve. And more so, this is my favorite, and very shamelessly I always share that civic sense is something more so after a pandemic. I think each of us need to focus on that. How do we improve, enhance our own civic sense uh, in whatever we do, whether we do in personal, we do personal, whether we do social, whatever the environment we are doing. Civic sense has a very different requirement and impact in our lives. So now we'll talk about some of the emerging technologies. I think these are the one which most of you may be more interested in, that what are these technologies which were there, which were evolving, but I think they've got a push when it comes to post pandemic. So next rest of the time, we will spend more on and learn about cloud. So next few minutes, maybe another 10-15 minutes, I'll be talking about cloud. Um, so cloud is a technology. If you really see the fundamental, if you really see the fundamental difference is that when we used to say on-prem. So we used to build everything ourselves for ourselves. And now in cloud, it is not that we build anything. We say everything is available to as a service. So the very first fundamental of cloud is that you pay as you use. And traditionally, friends, if you would have known that when we used to look for digital investment, IT investments, we always used to invest for the peak. We used to see that what could be a peak, let's say month end peak, quarter end peak. Now that maybe used maybe 20% of the time, 15% of the time during the life cycle, but nowhere that we could have afforded not to invest for that, because when that situation arises, we didn't want to collapse. We didn't want everything to fall down. So we always used to invest for peak, and that peak was never used for more than 15-20%. And there was no very particular way to assess that where could you do a mix of peak among various applications. It was done to some extent, but not so scientifically. So always we used to land up investing much more than what we were using 80 to 85% of the time to as an insurance premium to ourselves, that we are using we invested for the peak. And when we say pay as you use, this is basically, if you relate this to your electricity coming to your home. So what do? You don't go and set up a power plant. What do? You take a power supply. Now power supply, you decide whether for your office, for your home, your workplace, what what power do you use, and how much of that do you need. In the sense, like when you use air condition, then you are burning power and you are paying for that. When you are not using, you are not paying for it. Then second, even if the quality of your air conditioner is new, good, then you are consuming lesser power. And if the condition of your air condition is not so good, then you are consuming more power. So this was my own personal case in my daughter's bedroom, when we realized we had I will not name the brand, one of the brand air condition. It was a little old, couple of years old. So it ran into trouble. So instead of getting it repaired, this time we got it replaced. Trust me, friends, what happened at this point of time, my electricity bill came down by almost, like, what you can say, like 30%. And that 30% was good enough to pay the EMI for the new air condition. So what I'm trying to say, whether it is air condition at home or whether it is your application on the cloud, it is one of the same. So the quality of your application determines that how much cloud you will be using, what part of the cloud you will be using. And we will talk a little more about the cloud, but the fundamental difference between is business as usual, we were investing for peak, and now in cloud we invest pay as you use. And second, if you look at the evolution of cloud, traditionally we used to have our own in-house server rooms. I'm not even talking about that here. Then we got into the concept of data center. We said there is a data center owned by somebody, and then you go and you can take the rack space, you can take the server, you can take the compute, you can take a network, you can take storage, anything. So you were doing in the data center by appropriately putting those either investing your technologies or borrowing those technologies. Then the concept of hosting came when the world said that not you as a consumer, but I as a service provider will invest in the data centers, and I will do the hosting of your, whether it is your infrastructure, whether it is your platform, whether it is your software. I will do the hosting of that in my data center, and I will offer you on hosting basis. But when we were doing in the hosting basis, mostly our contract terms were very, very fixed in terms of the tenure, in terms of the capacity that we wanted to use. So almost that, as if I'm blocking that capacity for you. The difference here was that, there was some available parameters were available when you said, okay, let me keep paying you regularly for business as usual load, and whenever I'll have a peak load, then I will pay you for that peak load for that specific time. So that was a hosting model where most time it was fixed and there with some flexibility to serve the peak. Now, when it comes to cloud, here everything is as a service. So whether it is your compute, whether it is your memory, whether it is your network, whether it is your backup, whether it is your business continuity plan, so including software, everything is available, on pay as you use. So the fundamental difference is hosting and cloud is, and we will do have a couple of more slides on cloud. So cloud model, if you look at, there are multiple models. One, we say private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, and multi cloud. So private cloud means that I say in any country they may need private cloud. And if I try to relate to a real life scenario that, like Mukesh Ambani, he needs a 35 floor house. He needs it, he can afford it, he has it. So that is called private cloud. In an apartment complex, suppose you have, let's say, 3,000 apartments. So that is like a public cloud where you have 3,000 apartment. 3,000 apartment means 3,000 tenants you have, and each of the house may have certain common feature which are given by the apartment services, or like by the cloud service provider. And beyond, inside your apartment, you may have your own security level, you may have your own furnishing the way you want. So likewise in a public cloud, when you build your own cloud, or you configure your own public cloud, after that, what application, what security level, what all those you can define. So private cloud, public cloud, and then the hybrid cloud is when, because still there is either is a matter of comfort zone or is a matter of requirement. All my applications are in my data center or in my hosting model, but when I need some specific load, that is the time I will go to the cloud. Or I may say, like, few things like compute in an analytics environment. I may do some of compute in the cloud, but data will reside within my data center. So, or I may say, like, some of the applications I may want to host on-prem, while some of the application may even go on cloud. So whether it is an infrastructure level, it's a compute level, it's a memory level, it's a entire infrastructure level. We run into hybrid cloud model where we see, okay, something is on-prem and something is on the cloud. Something is on the cloud either regular basis, full-time basis, or need basis. So that is a hybrid cloud. And lately we are observing what is called multi-cloud. Now, multi-cloud, why it is emerging? Because suppose today I go to a one particular cloud service provider, A. Now, typically what was looking to happen, that we may get stuck with a particular cloud service provider, that after that I have to do everything and anything on the cloud with this cloud service provider. Or if I go to some other cloud service provider, then how these two applications will interact, people are not sure. So the new trend which has emerged is multi-cloud, where we are saying maybe my one application runs on one CSP cloud service provider, my another application runs on another cloud service provider, and then these two applications can speak to each other across two cloud service providers seamlessly. So these cloud service providers have developed those protocols that if I define my requirement like this, then I can get the benefit of multi cloud service provider, and this helps me in getting better options, more flexibility to me in terms of what cloud service provider I want to use for what purpose. So all that. So this is very critical, that when we say multi cloud service provider, because it does not restrict you or bind you to a particular cloud service provider. And I have no hesitation in saying that cloud is the future, for more than one reason, which some of it you must have, I just shared, and I'll be talking a little more. Friends, anything at this stage? Anybody has a clarification? Anybody want to make a comment or anything like that? So we'll continue. So, under cloud portfolio, while there are multi services which are available, but I have just captured four at this stage. And the fourth one says the rest. Basically, infrastructure as a service. So when we say infrastructure as a service means basically it means your storage, your compute, your network, all this traditionally which you are building the data center. All that now we are saying under the garb of infrastructure as a service is available. And the beauty is I can choose the specific a particular infrastructure, let's say security or network or storage or compute, as per my requirement of the application. Not that there is a standard three line item available only and I have to take one of them. I can configure them. What security level, what severity level I have based in my application basis that I can subscribe to those respective infrastructures. Likewise, platform. So platform basically means it's a layer between your application and your infrastructure. So when we say typically, let's say we are saying a database, we have development tool, we have deployment tools, management tools. They all tools which are there to manage your cloud or to run your application. They are called platforms. Like your database, your middleware, your application development platform, deployment platform. They are all called platforms. So they are all available as a service. You don't have to invest as capex into this. You just subscribe to this as per your application requirement and pay as you use. Then you have software as a service. So here what we are saying, the final application. So let's say there could be two ways. One is that I have my own application. I want to subscribe to platform and infrastructure as a service, and I want to use my own application. Now there may be a scenario when even the standard applications are available. To the simplest one is like email system, the collaboration platform like this, or we are saying there are some CRM application which are very standard. Then there are some ERP, enterprise resource planning application, which are largely standard. So if I think that my organization does not require very high level of customization, I can actually subscribe to software as a service. The end application which my end user uses, which I uses for dashboarding, for anything, they all can come to me software as a service. So that means I can have a infrastructure, platform, and software, everything as a service. So this is where software as a service also covers your entire gamut of IT. And when we say everything as a service, now we are saying beyond this you may need, let's say, mobility. You may need, let's say, some other services. So what we are saying, anything under the garb of digital world, what you require can be available to you under cloud without having to invest uh, capex into that and just use on a OPEX basis, out of pocket expenses basis, a monthly billable billing basis. What is very important in cloud, friends, you need to keep in mind is think cloud. Something like that. Some people, it is normally said कि वो सोचते हिंदी में है पर बोलते इंग्लिश में. आपने ये बड़ा कॉमन फ्रेज सुना होगा कि लोग सोचते हिंदी में फिर उसको इंग्लिश में बोलते हैं. वही यहाँ पर है कि हम सोचते तो डेटा सेंटर की तरह हैं, सोचते तो हम होस्टिंग की तरह हैं, बट हम चाहते क्लाउड है. तो वो जो है बहुत ही डिफॉल्ट मतलब डिफंग मॉडल है. एंड यू विल not certainly you will not achieve the benefits of cloud. And also to be noted that cloud is not the answer for everything. There could be parameter based on which you need to decide whether you really need the cloud or not. And there is a concept called cloud adoption framework. It is very important that you should people who want to go for cloud should go through the motions, the understanding of cloud adoption framework, which also focuses on the readiness of your organization, because your organization also has to be ready to adopt cloud, subscribe and adopt cloud, culturally, mentally, not only by paying the bill from capex to opex. So please note that cloud adoption framework, this requires another 90-minute session to take you through that, what is it and how does it work. But if you do Google, you will find enough about this. But very important that you have to think like cloud when you want to go for cloud. You cannot think like a data center. You cannot think like hosting, and then you want to subscribe to the cloud. That is the model for failure from day one, very clear. So if you really want to succeed in the cloud world, go with a methodical stop like cloud adoption framework. Go through the understanding and build on that. As I said, the organization has to be cloud ready. Some of the cloud key consideration when we consider a technology like cloud, one is the policy. So like the national policy on cloud is very very important. So like Meghraj is the national cloud policy for India. So this basically determines that what are the checks and balances, rules of the game for any cloud service provider in India to comply with. And when we say to comply with that, it is compliance with data sovereignty, basically data residency. Uh, Now data can reside within your own country, data can reside outside your country. But cloud policy for certain type of data, it insists that your data should reside within the country. To give you an example, when we have subscribed to, let's say, Gmail or any of this email system, we just subscribe to it and we don't even ask for, okay, where my data would be. When we take this thing, Google Drive, we don't even insist, or we don't even care to know where my photographs will be kept, my videos will be kept. But when it comes to my data, whether it is a country's passport data, is country's financial data, country's citizen data, country's Aadhaar data, or data like this, or your business data. Now you really want to make sure that data reside within the country. So data sovereignty is one of the critical factor, which is defined by Meghraj policy, the cloud policy of the country, and then you as a user can determine that what part of policy you want to adopt for what application and what data. Data privacy, more and more, as because in good old days, rightly or wrongly, I don't know, but there was a feeling that data was close to my chest when I was in data center, my own data center in my server room. But now we have the data going outside our control, and it is going in the cloud. We need to understand what are our data privacy requirements with respect to various data elements, and how do we subscribe to it, how do we adopt that. Data security, these days, beyond the security concept is changing. In good old days, somebody will come and hack your system and attack your system and will take away everything. In today's world, we are in the world of cyber security, where you see like somebody will peep into your account. You must have come across situation when mail comes and it says click this particular link, and if you press that link, what it does, it doesn't hamper your system immediately, but it get access to your system, and then it start residing in your system. Then through your system it goes into a network, into other applications in the overall data, and then maybe over a couple of weeks, couple of months, it damages your data, it hits your data, it takes away data, it tampers your data. So data security, under data security, what is very important is cyber security these days. That's a special focus. Then very specific to cloud is cloud portability and cloud migration. That today if I go to a particular cloud service provider, so that means whatever the application, it may look theoretical, it may be a theoretical aspect, but it is important aspect to understand that cloud portability, that means at least technically I should be able to move my entire application and data to any other cloud service provider. And when I do that, so there has to be a portability factor. Now portability you will relate to something called mobile number portability. Earlier, when we used to move from one service provider to another service provider, we necessarily had to change the number. But when number portability came, now it is available in banking system also. So there again, if you see, they say that take the same bank account number to other bank. So likewise, when we say cloud portability, we are saying take your application, your data as is to another cloud service provider without hampering or dampening anything. And when you do the portability, then you may also have to care for how do you migrate. So one is porting and the application migration and all that. So cloud portability, cloud migration, and users transparency is another key consideration. That on one hand, when we are saying it is pay as you use basis. So how do we get clarity and comfort that we are actually paying for what we are using? So whatever uses billing is happening in the background, there has to be a transparency. Something should be a mechanism for me as an end user to ask for data to validate that whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm paying, is that is scientific, is that right, or is there any malfunctioning in the billing because of, not intentionally, it could be because of misbehavior of some tools and technologies. So transparency in uses, that means that what I'm using and what I'm being billed and what I'm paying, should be a way of validating and verifying that there is a total transparency in that. As we said, we have to adopt cloud with care. It cannot be a mad rush, ke, let's go to cloud. So when we say cloud, we have to see a lot of factors and go through motions like cloud adoption framework, understand the nuances, and then do the cloud adoption. Some of the benefits of cloud, I think you will find them self-explanatory. One is the entire thing shifts from capex to apex, assuming we are fully or whatever the component of our application infrastructure, IT, digital, we are taking to cloud. That shifts from capex to opex. So we don't have to invest in a capex for that, and we can just keep paying on user basis. Second, then you have now since you are going cloud way and you have a choice, okay, what level of security, what level of performance, what level of efficiency you need, then it is SLA based choice of everything, and you can even do in evolutionary manner that you may go for lower benchmarks and keep enhancing your requirement, or you start with high and then you keep moderating, either way. But there is a way that where you have a SLA based, where you can monitor and measure everything what you want, and you get that delivered to you. Then the elasticity, because now whatever I need, whenever I need, how much I need, it can be delivered by the cloud based on our contracts with, between the end customer. And so elasticity is the greatest factor which tells you that now I'm not at all investing for peak or even moderate. Even my moderate users can be moderated further. Faster adoption and deployment, because when we do the data center or we do server room or we do all that, we need to procure all this infrastructure and then make it operational, and then bring the application in here. But when we go for cloud, cloud is already built by somebody. If we have the application, then we just start deploying that. Even suppose we are even taking software as a service, we start just configuring and start using it. So our time to use technology is much higher, and that gives us an edge that when we have to less worry about the IT part of it, because that is done by a cloud service provider, and more we can focus on business. And also this cloud service provider keep coming up with a commercial program, commercial offering. So keep evaluating them like offers and keep leveraging them. So the biggest factor is the seamless maintainability and manageability, because now anything and everything what you have taken as an infrastructure or your platform or application or any other service under cloud, it is all maintained and managed by the cloud service provider. So you don't have to worry about whether any patch has to be fixed, or any update has to be done, any upgrade has to be done. That is all done by the cloud service provider. When we say artificial intelligence and machine learning, it has basically it is an engine. It has an intelligence which is built into the system in your programs, which is algorithm based. Now here the focus is on algorithm, that you develop these algorithms and the algorithm evolves over time. They become personalized over time. They become social over time. That uh, these algorithms start reading the data in a particular manner and start interpreting results for you. It is based on certain behaviors and patterns also. So when we are talking artificial intelligence, machine learning, basically it has a built-in logic algorithm in the system, and based on, so I was talking of voice recognition. Now what happens, the voice you will find has a different touch in the north of India, west of India, south of India, and east of India. So if you really see the same artificial intelligence based speech recognition system will work and tune itself based on the data that it gathers and based on the behaviors it gathers, it continues to fine tune itself. So suppose in the beginning your accuracy level is, let's say, 80%. As more and more people use it, the same person use it, this what do you say, the efficiency and the quality of that voice recognition, keep going higher. It can go up to 90%, 95%, based on the uses it happens. That means the data it gathers, and it start realizing that whether I'm saying oracle or I'm saying oracle. Now maybe it means same, but in one part of the country it is said oracle, and in another part of the country it is said oracle. Canada and Canada. Now these are the things which it start fine tuning itself, the engine itself, based on the data which is available. That is one aspect. The other aspect is the data that you are getting. The AI based engine has a intelligence that it can read your data, interpret your data, and throw the data back to you. So like very simple, very good case of such a technology I will share with you. The income tax department started connecting with the Facebook and other social properties, and started seeing the people who are reporting either below poverty line or people who are reporting under low income tax regime or no tax regime. But if they really see, throughout the year there are multiple international travel, family travels are happening. So now there is a very clear gap which is emerging. Now these kind of situations can happen and then draw inferences. Okay? One is a business trip, one is a family trip. Now if you're doing a family vacation, family trip, and you are reporting low income, then there is a potential case of looking into this, which traditionally there was no other way like this. So what happens, based on the data which is available anywhere in the system, in the digital world, artificial intelligence has an algorithm to pick up and read all the data, collate all the data, and meaningfully interpret, and give results or throw results. So what is very important here, the data, because unless you have data, artificial intelligence, machine learning has no meaning, no real sense into that. So AI ML can be applied only when you have a lot of data already preferably available, and then you have continuous data pouring in, like in the speech system. You have unless you use it, it won't fine tune for you as a user. But based on certain patterns which are happening for North India of people, it will get fine tuned. Like in traditional world, when we used to have vendor evaluation. So what we used to fix 5 parameters, and we used to say we will evaluate the vendors on these 5 parameters. Today, beyond those 5 parameters, based on various data which are coming in the system, whether it is inventory system, whether it is your shops flow system or your accounting system, whether your vendor data, put together all that, it can tell you, it can give you a very different way, articulation of your own data for your vendor analysis. And then artificial intelligence machine learning is also used extensively, let's say when you are doing some disaster management. So that is another area where, based on the signal data what you're getting, the patterns you're getting, it has the capability to interpret that data and throw results. So here we are talking of responsible AI, the pop-up which has come basically because when you use AI, you are likely to get into people's life or behavior or thinking pattern. So it has to be very careful that wherever we use artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithm, they have to be used with a care. So responsible AI is very, very important. If you really ask me, the fundamental of artificial intelligence machine learning is basically connect the dots, connect the unconnected dots, and connect the unrelated dots. So unrelated dots and unconnected dots, like which business as usual we may not think, that it may have some relevance, it may have some relation, but with the algorithm that we have built into the artificial intelligence, that helps us based on the data usage and machine learning behavior, that it can connect the unconnected dots, like I said, the Facebook data or the social data with the income tax data, even unrelated dots. Something, like when you say related parties. Now that is another pattern. So a lot of data which you may not see any connection, any relevance between the two data, but artificial intelligence algorithm has those capability to, connect the two unrelated data and give you certain patterns to look into those, and then leave it to you for your own judgment and assessment. If you look at in traditionally, when we go to the stores, multi-brand stores, at the cash counter, you would have seen they keep certain items like chocolate, or they keep some chewing gum, and there are few things. Now, what they are doing, and also in the store, if you notice, they normally keep, they carry a pattern that keep serve with something like with dal and something like this. So what they say, the people who are coming to buy this are likely to buy this. Now that used to happen more like more manual studies and maybe algorithm based studies. But now with the AI/ML, it can continue to fine tune, and it can tell you, no, please add this also and remove this, because this you thought it is the case, but it's not working. And so this will automatically throw those patterns to you based on the data. So that is where I'm saying data is very important. So now, people, I know in certain sessions when we are done, people have said, okay, that means you're getting into my personal life, my personal choices. But this is not so. This was happening earlier also. Now we only tend to, criticize AI/ML. So that's the reason we make those statements. But otherwise, this has been happening over time, not new. And some of the use cases, I'm sure more than you would have experienced that. Suppose you go to online store, then you go to your Google Gmail account or any other this thing, so it keep throwing you pop-up. Okay, oh, you didn't complete this transaction. So basically what it does, not that it is keeping that open transaction to you, it is picking up those patterns that you have been trying to buy this, for whatever reason did not buy, so it keep throwing back on you. Pattern based recommendations, that it studies that what kind of shopping I've been doing over time. So based on that, it keep telling me, okay, would you like to buy this also, or people of your whom you follow, they have been buying this. So if you are really want to follow some people, and you want to see them as a model, so because the way you have been looking at their post, that tells you that whether you're an admirer of the person. If so, it also tells you those patterns. It also gives you intelligent predictions, whether it is disaster, whether it is law and order, whether it is your agriculture, any subject. If you see, it can tell you predictions like what is likely to happen this time, how certain things may evolve, how certain things may respond. So based on that, you can plan, or you can decide appropriately. And then somewhere it also has a customized engagement and interactions, because it gives you those pairs. So I've often seen that especially, let's say, go to Mark and Spencer and you buy certain things, then it tells you, okay, would you like to buy this shirt also? So it influences your patterns. A lot of people call it an intrusion in your privacy, but it's not, because this is only to say no to AI/ML. But this was happening always, and now this happens through the algorithm-based mechanism. Friends, now we will be talking of three concepts like augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. So first thing, when we say augmented reality, AR, VR, MR. So first thing, let me clarify, this is not 3D. 3D is a very different concept altogether. When we say AR, VR, MR, mostly they are artificial intelligence led. And you must have heard the telemedicine, when you say like somebody is sitting in a village place, and then some doctor sitting in city or US, and he's doing telemedicine. So they are basically doing teleconsultation and all that. So where people are available on cameras and all that. So now the next level version of AR, VR, MR is HoloLens, where if you see this person, wearing a HoloLens on your body, and you can actually simulate a scenario. You can simulate a particular situation, what is happening. So, uh, let's say if there is a patient on the surgery bed, what happens sometime through maybe earlier with the 3D, with a video consultation, what we are doing, the doctor sitting remotely was able to see that, and then he was able to advise the doctor over there. But now when you have HoloLens kind of a technology available, when you have AR, VR, MR available, so now doctor sitting remotely can be as good as the doctor is on the surgery table, and is able to see anything and everything as if anybody is able to, the doctor physically is over there. So that's a fundamental difference. And as I said, AR, VR, so augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality is basically, when you have something on-prem and something, happening digitally using HoloLens or something like that. Augmented reality is mostly artificial intelligence led, and where you have a simulation and you have a real life situation. And virtual reality more like, what you are able to see the world globally, the virtually, but uh, it is like through the camera, through the lenses and all that. So if you look at this, as I said, from rural to urban, urban to international, the doctor sitting on the other side can see the patient body, can work on patient body, can act on patient body as if is one of the doctors standing there. And the real advantage of AR, VR, MR is that you can reach the unreached. That means traditionally the people whom you are not able to reach, you are not able to provide certain services, you can do that. And if you look at some of the segments which are very good use cases for AR, VR, MR are education, agriculture, healthcare, city platform, whether from safe city perspective, smart city perspective, law and order, disaster, you name a subject, you know, AR, VR, MR are the use cases or are the evolving technologies, but it is still evolving. It is in the early stage. It is a bit expensive, you can say. It's not so affordability is not that good, but it is improving. And as there is no other way to make it viable is the volumes. So as the larger adoption happens, you will see that it will become affordable. Now, if you really want to teach something that so that you want to teach, let's say today what happens if you have to in medical world, if you see that the body, the dead body is brought to the table, and then it is operated by the students who are undergoing the training. Now the beauty here is, going forward you may not need those bodies. You may be able to do the same exercise on a virtual body rather than a physical body. Now that is where it is going to change the world. So low code, no code, basically what we are saying, we are shifting from monolithic code writing to writing lesser code. And there are two kind of application we can say. One are very business serious application, which may require to be developed using again the better technologies than unlike good old days technology. But there are a lot of functionality which may not require that level of extensive programming, extensive optimization. Then these two today modern days tools, you can see it on the screen, that GitHub or Power Apps, they all offer you that you can develop your application. Let's say if you want to develop a leave application, or you want to develop an approval system, something like that, which is relatively simple in nature, not so much of some basic business logic, but not very involved, like interest calculation or retrospective or tax calculation or those things. But simple workflows you can develop using this low code node application without having to invest too much in the coding. Obviously, it has its own pros and cons. But look at, and some of you can actually try some of these tools like GitHub, Power Apps. I have personally tried dirtying my hands with them, and I found them pretty useful. That we could develop some application in no time, within a couple of hours, and we could deliver that, for users. Gone are the days of monolithic code. That anyway are gone. Whether we use low code, no code or not, but any business as usual coding, it is not monolithic as good old days. And low code, no code, some of the platforms where you can use is like, you want to develop some analytics functionality, you want some forms, rules, workflow. Some administration tools are available through this process. Application development, deployment automation. Now here there's a difference. One is application development, one is deployment automation. So whatever deployment we do, can we do a bit of automation of that? If you have to develop certain connectors and some API between the two application at the data level, at the application level. So these are the use cases where these are platforms available. So what they have done, let's say when you say analytics and prediction platform, that means it has understood what by far you need for under analytics and prediction, and they have built those logic and call it a platform. That means now you may need 5, but it may have 50 or 70 as a functionality. Likewise for forms, because when you have to develop a form, it may typically require certain rules and certain workflows. So what they have called a platform. So what they have done further, they have consolidated, the low code, no code proposition, saying like what you need typically for the various functions and more. These are illustrative. They are available, under that platform. And if you choose the right platform, your life becomes still simpler, because now instead of 10,000, maybe you are focusing only on 100, which are more relevant to you, because now you are doing admin tool. So for admin tool, you will only get exposed to 100, not the 10,000 features which are available, the low code, no code mechanism which are available. Likewise for connector and API automation, it will tell you like these are the 30, 40, 50 available, and you may pick and choose from them. So again, this world of low code, no code is making your life easy by bringing them under platform and giving you very cohesive set of functionality under one roof. And they are not free. They may appear as free, but they are not free, because everything is a cost. And we need to be wary that when and where do I use low code, no code. So make your choice careful, because immediately it may look so, but from a medium to long term perspective, you need to make an assessment what level of low code, no code you want to use for what and where. Friends, the last one I want to cover with you is agile is the way. Again, as I said, coding in the traditional days, any kind of development used to be very, you can say, time consuming and very tightly step by step driven. So now when you have something like agile is the way, so what you do, you have very different development and deployment methodology when you keep doing in iterative manner. So earlier what used to happen, let's say for software, we'll say we'll write SRS, so software requirement specification, then we'll write design, then we'll do development, and then we go for testing. Today what happens, even when I'm doing the requirement capture, I do it through using tools, so that even what the user is telling me what is the requirement, in a couple of days or within a week or no more than 2 weeks, I can show it to the user that this is what you are asking in terms of screen, in terms of report, in terms of queries, in terms of your workflow, all that. So here what happens, anything and everything, what you have to do between you as a developer and the end user. We use the agile methodology where it is iterative in nature. And as we listen to the customer or the user, we show it to them, even including some of the business logics, in such a manner that it is not like a postmortem that after 9 months, 12 months, when we have developed something, we realize, oh, there were major gaps. So that doesn't happen. So Modern day business scenario also, if you look at, they are dynamic, because today most of the digital application what you need, they are not good, like good old days when it used to be so fixed. Today, because of exposure, because of requirement changing and the expectations growing, the whole world is dynamic. So even when today I give the requirement, maybe after 3 days my own requirement perspective changes. So if I have given requirement today and I wait for 9 months, imagine what can happen. But if I give my requirement today, after 3 days I can see that, after 5 days I can see that, I can capture the change right now and I can get that done. And obviously the users are more demanding than ever, because including things like what should be your screen style, what should be your color combination, what should be how it should look like, how it should flow, all those things. And the fundamental rule to that is have an outside inside perspective. That means we as developer can we look at everything from a end user perspective. What are they looking at? The businesses can see like what my consumer are looking at. And when you use agile methodology, it's cost effective because you are not into postmortem. You keep refining, you keep defining that in an iterative manner then as you develop. And agile is end user oriented, because everything within 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, you get revalidated by the end user. And mobility, friends, is the future. Mobility is not about mobile. Mobility is all about whether it is how do we have more fuel efficient vehicles, how do we have more efficient vehicles. It hits our pockets because the prices go up. So if you look at, even in India, there are efforts to improve. So from future technology perspective, friends, I'm sharing with you, mobility is one of the new focus area. And when we say mobility is not mobile, is mobility in a much larger context. And if you want to focus on, if you want to look at it, please look at mobility as a based on your own characteristics. You may want to look at mobility as your future, because mobility is the future. So friends, this is what few slides I had for today's session.
So I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Sudhir Aggarwal for this enriching masterclass and sharing his expertise. Thank you so much, sir. And
Thank you.
also, it gives me an immense pleasure to acknowledge the presence of the audience for the event
Absolutely.
today.
Thank you.
This event would not have been possible without the support of each and every one of you, including our speakers and the participants. I would like to take a moment and request all the participants to please fill in the feedback form, as at EduBridge we believe that everyone needs to grow and improve all the time. I'll be sharing this feedback form link here.
Thanks everyone. Thank you. Good day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for
Good
having
luck.
me,
Good luck
for
everyone.
being here. Thank you.